Hello, it is Tuesday evening and time for a little update. I did actually read more last night after having filmed my last clip for the last vlog, so I actually changed my reading log a little bit to account for those pages, and actually I was able to kind of get myself caught up on the pages that I had fallen behind on over the past few days. So I am currently on page 407. I'm currently on page 407. I just started chapter 38. And I do still need to read my pages for today. Remember that I have a reading goal of 15 pages a day, and I have not done any reading yet. So I do need to do that, but honestly, I'm only about 30 pages out from just finishing this. So I may or may not finish this book tonight. We will see what happens. So it's currently Wednesday afternoon after school, and I am by myself just filming in the library like a weirdo, but I thought that we could use a little change of scenery, so I've got a little bit of a different background going on today. Plus I have some exciting news, which is that I finally finished reading SCYTHE by Neal Shusterman. I finished my book. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add my pages to my log from yesterday. Okay, so overall reactions to SCYTHE. I really enjoyed it. I think that I would give it a 4, maybe even a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It wasn't quite a full 5-star for me. I know this is going to sound weird because it did take me the full 3 weeks to read this, but in some ways I almost wish that the book was longer. I think that there is so much that's happening in this book that I really would have wanted. Okay, here's the thing. The book is very fast-paced. There's a lot happening plot-wise. We move very quickly through all of these different things that are happening. There's lots of twists and turns, and so in that way it was interesting, it was intriguing. I thought that the world building was really cool as far as like all of the concepts tied to the era in which the story is taking place, the fact that everyone is immortal, the fact that we have scythes who glean people, all of that was very interesting. However, I am very much like a character-driven reader, which means that I really enjoy, like, I need to feel invested in the characters, and it's not that I don't feel invested in these characters, I just think that there could have been so much more to their development within the story. Like, I wish it was longer, like, I wish the book was longer in the sense that I would have more time to learn more about each of the characters. I think that they're going through so much in this story. Hello. I don't mean to scare you.
Oh, you did.
I'm sorry. I'm actually back here filming for a video for my class, so just don't mind me. I'm just gonna be back here talking to my phone. Thank you. Okay. Okay, cool. Perfect. Okay, that was just a little awkward. God, guys, now I don't even know what I was saying. Okay, I was talking about the characters. I just think overall I would have liked to have seen more development of the characters and also more development of the relationship between Rowan and Citra. For me, a 4-star rating is still very good. Like a 5-star rating is like above and beyond And I would absolutely recommend this book. It was very fast-paced, very intriguing, lots of interesting concepts, and I am still very much interested in reading the next 2 books in the trilogy. While I'm here, I thought that I would go ahead and share some of the passages that I sort of marked with some of my thoughts as I was reading this last section of the book. And remember, I've been kind of paying attention to my different thematic ideas that I have listed here. So I have death, mortality, compassion, violence, nature, sacrifice, bias, guilt, humanity, and empathy. So those were some ideas that I sort of had in the back of my mind as I was finishing out the story and sort of marking up some pages where I thought there were some passages that were sort of relevant to those ideas. Outside, the rain finally began to fall, surging in fits and starts. "I love the way it rains here," he told her. "It reminds me that some forces of nature can never be entirely subdued. They are eternal, which is a far better thing to be than immortal." So we have like the idea of nature and then also like acknowledging a difference between eternity and immortality, which I think is interesting. "The longer we live, the quicker the days seem to pass. How troublesome that is when we live forever. A year seems to pass in a matter of weeks. Decades fly with no milestones to mark them. We become settled in the inconsequential drudgery of our lives until suddenly we look at ourselves in the mirror and see a face we barely recognize begging us to turn a corner and be young again." I think there's one character, especially in this book, who sort of argues that we're not meant to live forever and there are consequences to immortality. He wanted to be a failure because only by failing would he know that he held on to a shred of his humanity. And I'll let you guess which character that was about. Okay, so this passage was kind of around the part where I was crying towards the end of this. "My greatest wish for humanity is not for peace or comfort or joy. It is that we all still die a little inside every time we witness the death of another. For only the pain of empathy will keep us human. There's no version of God that can help us if we ever lose that." And I just love that passage a lot. Hello, it is Thursday after school and I'm sitting in my car right now. I actually do need to go home at some point and edit the rest of this vlog for you guys. But I got a phone call earlier today that some of the books that I ordered through the bookstore have come in, and so I think I'm gonna actually take some time this afternoon to go to the bookstore and get my books. Maybe I'll get a coffee on the way and I'll take you guys along. Okay, so I'm home from the bookstore and I wanted to show you very quickly the books that I got. The first one is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, and it says, "Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet." So I'm not sure how much of this is like a murder mystery, but I definitely think that it's going to be more of like a family drama. Then we have The Bride Test by Helen Hoang, which is an adult romance novel, so that's probably all I need to say about that one. And then the last one, which I may be most excited for, is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And this one's a really popular young adult fantasy novel. So this is a story about a heist, which I haven't really read a lot of stories about that, but if that's something that you're interested in, maybe this one's for you. Also, on the back, it says that this is the best magic universe since Harry Potter, which I feel is a massive claim. So yeah, I am very excited for this one. Hi, it is later in the evening now, and I'm realizing that this will be the last clip of our last vlog for this unit. So with that being said, I do have some things that I want to kind of talk about as we're wrapping up this week. First, I want to circle back around to this idea of theme. So throughout this vlog, I've kind of been talking about my list of thematic ideas, but now we're at the point where we want to actually answer the question of what is a theme or message from the story that we think the author is trying to convey, which means you need to come up with some sort of universal statement. So, for example, rather than saying, oh, the theme of Scythe, the theme of Scythe is violence. Violence is not a theme, it's not a message, it's an idea. So what about violence do we think the writer is trying to communicate? And I could argue that a possible message is people should not allow themselves to become desensitized to violence. Instead of saying that the theme of the story is mortality versus immortality, maybe I could say something like allowing yourself to feel pain and risk is the only way to live fully. Instead of saying the theme of the story is compassion, I could say something like, above all else, people should strive to live a compassionate life. And remember that a theme statement should be universal, not just something specific to the characters in your book. Let's also take a moment and talk about the second focus for this week, which I think is a fun one, and that is title. Our focus question asks, how does the title fit the book? Does your understanding of the title change throughout the book? For Scythe, I think that on a surface level, the title is pretty obvious, right? Like, the title is Scythe. Scythes are like the main focus of the entire story. But I think you could also argue that there are some deeper meanings to this title. I don't know if anybody remembers, but in one of my earlier vlogs, I included a passage from like one of the very first chapters of the book. A scythe is merely the instrument of death, but it is your hand that swings me. You and your parents and everyone else in this world are the wielder of scythes. We are all accomplices. You must share the responsibility. And then towards the very end of the book, I came across another passage that kind of references the idea of scythes, or like the meaning of scythes, which I thought was interesting. We could have been called reapers, he said, but our founders saw fit to call us scythes, because we are the weapons in mankind's immortal hand. You are a fine weapon, Rowan, sharp and precise, and when you strike, you are glorious to behold. So I think there are definitely some things there that I could talk about in relation to Scythe as the title of the book, but also I mentioned before that Scythe as an object is something that I was really interested in doing for my research project. I am very excited to kind of be jumping into the research process for this next part of our unit and to see what you guys are going to be doing for your projects. I think you're going to come up with some really great ideas and some really awesome presentations, so I am definitely looking forward to that. Overall, I am so proud of all of the reading that you guys have done over the past few weeks, and I'm so happy that so many of you actually really loved the books that you read. So to wrap things up, because I finished reading Scythe, I did want to take a moment and talk about what I am reading next. And I know I said that I wanted to read the other two books in this trilogy, which I absolutely do, and I have already bought Thunderhead, which is the second book, and The Toll, which is the third book. However, I feel like the first book wrapped up nicely enough that I kind of want to take a break from the series and read something else. So I have picked a completely different book that I am actually already reading. I've already started it. And that is Frankly in Love by David Yoon. This is a YA romance novel. On the back it says, two friends, one fake dating scheme. What could possibly go wrong? So I will go ahead and read you the synopsis on the inside cover. It says, Frank Lee has two names. There's Frank Lee, his American name. Then there's Songmin Lee, his Korean name. No one uses his Korean name, not even his parents. Frank barely speaks any Korean. He was born and raised in Southern California. Even so, his parents expect him to end up with a nice Korean girl, which is a problem since Frank is finally dating the girl of his dreams, Britt Means. Britt is smart and nerdy just like him. Britt who makes him laugh like no one else. Britt who is white. As Frank falls in love for the very first time, he's forced to confront the fact that while his parents sacrificed everything to raise him in the land of opportunity, their traditional expectations don't leave a lot of room for him to be a regular American teen. Desperate to be with Britt without his parents finding out, Frank turns to family friend Joy Song, who is in a similar bind. Together they come up with a plan to help each other and keep their parents off their backs. Frank thinks he's found the solution to all his problems, but when life throws him a curveball, he's left wondering whether he ever really knew anything about love or himself at all. I think this sounds super cute. I've also heard it's really funny. I've also heard it's kind of weird, which, like, that's fine. Also, since we were talking about titles this week, I think it is so fun that the main character's name is Frank Lee, and the book is called Frankly in Love. Ah? I love a good pun, guys. And that is it. That is the end of this vlog. I really hope you guys have enjoyed these videos. I hope that they have been helpful in some way as we have worked through reading our books over these last few weeks. Happy reading, and I will see you guys soon.